Call the meeting of the Design Adjustment Committee to order. Before we get started, I have to read an introduction. The Design Adjustment Committee's purpose is to establish clear and measurable review criteria for the consideration of major deviations from the city's technical standards and specifications manual, building design and material standards, and subdivision standards. The committee does not consider housing type, cost of the proposed unit, occupants, building material, unit size, number of bedrooms, or the architectural design of the structures. These hearings are quasi-judicial evidentiary hearings. That means they are like a court hearing, and the committee's decisions are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based upon the facts presented. All variance requests require a 4/5 vote of the committee to grant the variance. Appeals of the committee decisions are to Superior Court. The parties in these cases are entitled to an impartial board. If a board member has a fixed opinion on the matter, a financial interest in the outcome, a close relationship with the affected person, or has had any ex parte communication about the matter, please disclose that information to determine if a recusal is necessary. City staff will introduce the proposed project to the committee, and committee members may ask questions. The applicant may present additional information about the project, and members may ask questions. If anyone wishes to provide evidence at today's hearing, witnesses must sign in at the clipboard in the back of the room and be sworn in. Because witnesses are to provide sworn testimony, please focus on the facts and the standards, not personal preference or opinion. When a witness comes forward to give testimony, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak clearly. At this time, staff will administer the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony.
If I could have all staff, applicants, and member of the public to please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
First item on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting. I wasn't at that meeting, so I'm not going to be voting on that, but has anyone else had a chance to review the minutes?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And of course, I did not vote. Okay, first item on the agenda is a 2718 Worth Drive. Is there a staff presentation?
Good afternoon, chairs and members of the committee. This is evidentiary hearing number 1, located at 2718 Worth Drive. The site is located along Worth Drive and is approximately 1.10 acres in size. The site is zoned R5 residential and is currently vacant. The proposal for this site includes a 12-unit residential courtyard development. The development of courtyard housing is a voluntary development pattern within the R5 zoning district. Section 18-435 of the Land Development Code states that unless otherwise noted with objective criteria, the Design Adjustment Committee shall hear requests for waivers from this section. Section 18-45 of the Land Development Code also stipulates off-street parking shall be located to the side or rear of dwelling units and shall be located between dwelling units and the primary street frontage for courtyard developments. The applicant is requesting the off-street parking be located between the primary street frontage and the dwelling units, and a waiver is required. The applicant has provided justification for the request in attachment 3 of your package. This concludes staff's presentation. I'd like my case summary to be entered into the record. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here as well. I also want to note that staff has been informed by the applicant that they intend to present a revised site plan, which will differ from the version currently included in your packet. However, the request remains unchanged.
Any questions for staff? Thank you, Zach.
The other way. Good afternoon. My name's Cindy Wolf, and I'm here on behalf of Gio Arcella, the owner of the property. And as Zach pointed out, this is a vacant property. It is surrounded on 2 of the sides by the ChemServe terminals and a heavy industrial zoning district. As an infill type of project, we felt that a courtyard development would be a great opportunity here. That being said, I know that this board, well, all of us have not really done much in the way of courtyard developments ever since they were actually brought into the code itself. I know that I think this board had a lot of waivers on a project a few months back, and this is a good opportunity for the courtyard type of development. Again, the zoning, industrial on 2 of our sides, and then the R5 in the rest of that community. This is the code that we are basically here to ask a waiver for. The courtyard development allows parking along the sides. There are certain provisions that the first parking space can be no more than or less than 40 feet. There's some other provisions for parking along the side. That being said, we know that the reasoning for this is probably just for enhancement of streetscapes as we're doing new development through the city. So the plan at the top is the plan that was in your packets. I realized, and Mr. Coleman would have had a fit all of a sudden this morning, that there was no fire services or emergency services access to the rear homes. In a courtyard development, it just never occurred to me when we first looked at it, but I did realize it this morning, and so I used this morning to make a revision to the actual courtyard part of the layout. That being said, I used a similar provision of a 15-foot turf cell or stabilized emergency access so that the rear of the lot could be accessed. The main parking lot remains the same. It is still between units 1, 2, and 3 and the streetscape. There are several things in this layout at the bottom that will be coordinated with TRC, but I do believe that it meets all criteria, so the only waiver we're asking for at this point is that the parking lot is located in front of some of the buildings. It is still 140 feet back before we get to the parking area. The property itself, of course, is very narrow at the front at Worth Drive. Trying to get parking and circulation around the entire back of it was very difficult, also because of the specimen tree that's being saved in the center of the courtyard. I believe, one option here is certainly some fencing, but our proposal is, and the parking is oriented away from the street. So that being said, we believe that this would continue to meet the intent of the code provision to enhance streetscapes because we are set back over 140 feet where the parking is. The parking is oriented away from the street, so anyone driving up and down the street would see the landscaping along the drive aisle, not parking spaces. It would certainly not increase congestion or compromise safety because traffic is limited to the ingress and egress of the residents and any guests. The waiver would certainly not be contrary to the policies and strategies of the Create Wilmington Plan, which promotes residential infill of underutilized lands where existing urban services occur. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Cindy, thank you for your presentation. Looking at the revised site plan versus what was in the packet,
Okay, keep it there.
thank you. Is there, am I understanding correctly that there would be 8 parking spaces included? 1?
Yes, okay. Right now, in this plan, in fact, the backing stub is only 6 feet off the property line. We're required to have a 10-foot buffer yard, so that would have to be shifted before the TRC's more detailed plans. I think there is possibly an opportunity for one more parking space at the north end before the T-head that would be for emergency vehicles not going onto the stabilized surface, that would just be coming and going, because the distance to that parking lot would be over 150 from the edge of Worth Drive. So I've tried to consider all of those aspects of it. So there is a T-head as part of the pavement. Then, of course, there's also another T-head at the very back of the emergency access. But yes, I think at TRC we would be showing either 8 or 9 spaces total. which is more than the requirement.
Cindy, do you know the right-of-way width of Worth Drive and if
It's-
on-street parking would be available?
I don't,
Off-street parking?
I really don't know how the police department handles that part of it. Worth Drive itself is not 33-foot wide, so generally speaking, there wouldn't be parallel parking, but the right-of-way is certainly large enough. Most of the properties along Worth Drive do park in their front driveways, so, having parking in front of the buildings, albeit nicely tucked back there, would not be unusual in this neighborhood.
Thank you.
And your plan wouldn't that be to not have residents use the emergency access to park off of?
Oh,
or
absolutely
use-
not. That would be signed and perhaps even, somehow gated with,
Be tempting
appropriate-
if you were a resident.
oh, absolutely. No, we'd have to handle that by all means.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
At this time, I don't know that there's anyone in the public, but at this time, we do have to open the public hearing. Is there any from the public who wishes to speak on this project? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, which brings us to the discussion about the waiver at hand. Any discussion amongst the committee? Any objections? And I do recognize the value of that tree, and I can appreciate making that sort of the centerpiece for the project. But comments from planning?
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit squaring the new site plan versus the old one. I guess my first question would be back to fire. Does what's proposed seem to conform with your needs?
Yeah, the new proposed is definitely better than the first one, because I was wondering how we would have access to the rear back there. Do we know what the distance, I guess, from the concrete to the very back would be? And I guess that would probably be a question for her.
I apologize, that's something I didn't measure before I came.
Oh,
But if
that's
you're
okay.
looking at the 140, basically, probably another 160 to 70 from the parking lot back to the back.
Okay,
The whole tract is, 300 and some?
okay. I'm not sure, I'm not familiar where the first, and this would all be covered in TRC as far as the hydrant access.
The close,
or-
and
yeah.
that's what I just referred to my client this morning is, until we get the survey and I locate, I believe that there is a hydrant at our northeast corner, but don't quote
Yeah,
me on that.
I'm not sure where it is on there. I've traveled Worth Drive a lot, but it's not standing out to me as far as where this is located, but, like I said, that would all be addressed in TRC.
I made him aware that there would be the possibility of extending a fire line.
Right. And as far as, you said this is 15 foot wide?
Yes,
Okay,
that is similar to Eden Village. Now, at the back, at the turnaround, those are 20s,
right,
20-foot radius, 20-foot widths.
okay. And what type of material would it be?
I know that the engineer on Eden Village specified turf cell, I believe, but some acceptable stabilized surface.
Right. We would just have to make sure it'd be something that could hold up to
Mhm.
our vehicles.
Cindy, it's not directly relevant to the waiver at hand, but it could affect the site plan stormwater?
We're getting soils tested. It's very sandy down in there, to the best of my knowledge.
Stormwater would be required, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes and no. I guess we'd have to test the soils, certainly. If the entire parking lot were able to be porous pavement, then we'd be under 10,000.
Okay.
And it's not an acre. Well, it's just barely an acre, but we'd have to take a look at the disturbance also.
Okay. But you're planning for the fact that stormwater would be required, you're
Has
getting
to
the
be
soils.
addressed one way or the other, yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Cindy? Thank you, Cindy. Okay. So I guess the waiver is for the allowance of the off-street parking to be located between the primary street frontage and the dwelling units. So I guess that is the waiver we are approving, which would allow them to build the alternative site plan that they are proposing, if it's approved. Any objections or any motions or any other discussion?
I'm personally in favor of the site plan. There's a number of reasons why. I mean, 140-foot setback from the street provides for plenty of buffer and potential landscaping. The courtyard's focused around a significant live oak. It's industrial zoning on two sides, and this seems to be a favorable housing option. From planning supported it. So for those 4 reasons, I'd support the site plan.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. I believe that was the only item on the agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you.